What stranger will you never forget? When my wife and I first started dating, we were walking into a Trader Joe's holding hands. This elderly woman looks at us and says rather loudly, "Cute couple alert." My wife and I still laugh about it. It's been 12 years at least. The lady who very well might have saved me from being molested, or worse. My mom had some errands to run downtown, so I had asked if I could walk to the 7-Eleven and then go wait at the library. Sure, no problem. I was 12, 13. I didn't need constant watching. So I was sitting outside of the library on a bench, drinking the largest size Slurpee, when a man approached me. He gave me very bad vibes. He asked me what I was doing there all alone, and I told him my mom was coming to pick me up in a few minutes. He sat down uncomfortably close to me on the bench. I scooted away, but he kept scooting closer. I should have got up and gone into the library where there were other people, but I was dumb. I thought, I can't go into the library with my drink. They'll kick me out. At this point, I was on the very edge of the bench. The man was sitting pressed right up against my side, and he put his hand on my leg. I didn't know what to do. Then suddenly, I heard a voice say, "Honey, there you are. I've been looking for you." A woman I didn't know came and pushed herself in between the man and I on the bench and put her arm around me. "This is your mom?" the man had asked. "Yeah, this is my mom. I knew she'd be here soon." The man got up and left. I told the woman thank you so much. She kind of told me off for not being smart enough to get into the library where it was safe. I told her I would go right then, which I did. When my mom did pick me up probably 10 minutes later, the woman was gone. I don't know what would have happened if the woman hadn't intervened. I can imagine though, and I'm so glad she did. I wish I could thank her more. When I was in elementary school, I fell through ice. A man who was walking his dog saw me fall and rushed to the shore. I frantically swam back to the shore. I was only about 5 meters into the pond, so it wasn't a long way, but it took some with soaked winter clothes. When I reached the shore, the man pulled me up by my jacket. It would have been difficult to get up, as there was a steep incline. I didn't thank him, because I was in shock, but I bet he knows I was grateful, and 20 years later I still hope I would have thanked him. I was doing tech support and my customer was so happy with my service she offered to marry me to her daughter. I politely declined. "Do you also accept daughters for payment?" My mom, dad and I were driving through Arches National Park and were at the visitor center waiting for my dad to come out on a really hot day. This guy kind of walked up towards the back of our van kind of shifty, like he wanted to ask us something, but was too afraid to. After about 3 times of him walking up but then turning around, he finally came up to the window and with a thick Russian accent wondered if we could give him a lift up to the top of the park per se. He explained that him and 2 other guys with him were Russian students that were traveling around the US over the summer and got permission to camp, but didn't have a car since they were taking buses everywhere. My mom told him to wait for my dad and ask him, since he was the driver and might not be too happy to see we picked up some extra bodies. Dad was cool with it and we got them and their packs in our van, which was packed already since we were doing a West Coast road trip after I graduated high school. One of the guys sat on the floor and was happy they didn't have to walk several mother-in-laws in the heat and elevation changes. So as we are driving through the park, these guys are just as chatty as can be, and I've never really interacted with anyone from another country on such an intimate level, so I had a zillion questions. It turns out all these guys are PhDs that were taking the trip together. Super friendly guys and extremely grateful for the lift they tried paying my dad, who refused. Which in turn turned into a typical Minnesota nice exchange of one party insisting on paying and the other flat out refusing to take payment. Since it was a hot day, we told them to reach into the loaded cooler and take whatever they wanted. One of the guys said they would just share a 20-ounce bottle of pop, and we of course weren't going to let that happen and made them take 2 cold drinks apiece. We got to the top, dropped them off, said our goodbyes and continued onward. I'll never forget those guys. I went down to a veterinarian pharmacy I had never gone to about a year ago in the summer. I had a lot of time to wait for the prescription. to be father-in-law first time customer. So I couldn't call ahead and so I went to the nearby shopping village. They had a public piano there. I've played piano since childhood and recently tried to sing and play at the same time. Knowing that nobody knew me around, I started to play and sing American Pie cause who cares. A woman was just walking by and stopped and started singing harmony. Also started up Piano Man and she sang along with that as well. We sang and played together for a good 15 minutes before I had to return. But that was just a spontaneously magical encounter. I learned she used to sing at clubs and I told her I used to play in jazz bands. We had a good time together and I doubt we'll see each other again, but I'll never forget her. I was fiddling with my camera on a train platform in Melbourne, Australia, trying to take an artsy shot of the trains or something. I noticed through my viewfinder a guy about my age, early 20s or so at the time, full on flipping me off on the train on the opposite platform. I lowered my camera, laughing, and flipped him off back. He laughed. The train started to pull away, and I waved, and he waved back. Australia. The gentleman in a business suit handing me his umbrella in the middle of a downpour. We just were passing each other on the sidewalk. Our eyes met, and he just handed over the umbrella with a "here ya go." Never saw him ago. I was waiting for my appointment with an optometrist when an old Haitian man walked in with the grocery bags. Thai receptionist knew him, so he walked up to me and proceeded to ask me riddles. When I finally got the answer to one, he reached into his bag and gave me a Snickers and left. To this day I'm really curious as to what would motivate a man to become a wholesome riddler. When I was younger, I went grocery shopping with my dad. As we were walking, an old man stopped us and handed both me and my sister a shiny $1 coin. He told us that he wanted us to have them and to have a Merry Christmas. I never saw him again, but I think of that kind old man from time to time. The foreign exchange student and his parents who walked past my park bench on campus and dropped his passport. I chased after them to return it, and his mom started screaming at me in broken English like, "Why you have his papers? Why you steal his papers?" While the kid and his father looked like they were going to die from embarrassment. This happened to me in the airport when I was 8. The man dropped his wallet and I gave it to him. His wife was just like, "Count the money in it. She looks like a thief." He didn't even have any money in it, and she accused me of stealing it. Some people. I was on a tram, and I didn't have a ticket and the ticket inspectors came on. I got asked to have my ticket seen, and I said I couldn't find it on me, and he said he'll come back, so I can look for it. There was a stranger sat on the seat behind me who had a ticket. He gave it to me, and he got off at the next stop. Guy gave me his ticket, so I wouldn't be issued a fine. I'm a ticket inspector and believe me, we know people are doing this, and if I turn around, I do it, so you can get the stranger's ticket. We are also humans. An Irish guy not in Ireland who spoke with such a strong accent that I couldn't make out a single word. To this day I question whether it was just a prank. Was it this guy? Link. That video's a classic. Honestly, it was stronger than that because I can make out some of what that farmer says. I was going home from work at night and a random guy walks up to me and asked if he may ask a question. I said yes. It was a bit strange. In the middle of the night, he took out his phone and showed me a picture of a woman and wanted to know if I think she was pretty. I said sure. She was beautiful, she really was. He thanked me. Said he will tell her that because she often thinks she is not that pretty. We wished each other a good night and that was it. I was in the university library with a really bad cold. Super tired and wanting to go home but desperately studying for my upcoming exams really late at night. I thought I was alone, but a stranger came by my desk with an unopened pack of strepsils. He then told me my health was the most important thing I would have on this earth, and walked away before I could process what had just happened. I wanted to thank him for his kindness, but I never saw him again. I went on an absolutely wild ride for my 21st birthday. I was totally blasted by the end of the night with barely an understanding of what my name was, much less how old I was. Anyways, on our way home me and my big group of friends rented a limo for the night. No drunk driving here. I had to take a piss, but it was late and nowhere was open. So the driver stopped in a mall parking lot and I just relieved myself in by a light post. It wasn't until the next morning that I realized I couldn't find my phone. I had no idea what happened to it, but my girlfriend got a call later that day from my number. Turns out one of the street cleaner maintenance guys for the mall had found my phone, and it was his daughter calling to say they had found it as her father didn't speak English. I explained the situation and offered to come pick it up, but she said it was fine and they would mail it. A few days later I received my phone in the mail with a happy birthday card. They could have just kept the phone and sold it, or he could have just turned it in somewhere like a homeless shelter or the mall's lost and found at the security office. But he didn't. He and his daughter took the time out of their day to go to the store, get a birthday card, pack it and my phone in an envelope, run out to the post office, and mail it to me. It's an act of kindness I'll never forget, especially considering I had just pissed all over the street he had to clean. I was at a pool bar at a resort in Jamaica. A British lady next to me asked me the most random question, which turned into a nearly 3-hour conversation. The question, what is a redneck? It was a lot more difficult to explain than I thought it would be. I didn't realize that was an unknown concept to a lot of Brits. Reminds me of an old joke for some reason. What's the difference between a cowboy and a redneck? Acreage. I was driving down south with my girlfriend. We have a blowout, so I put on the donut. The donut blows out while we are exiting the very next exit. So there we are, maybe 19 and at least 100 mother-in-laws from anyone we know at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. I'm thinking on what to do next, and probably looked like there was something wrong. So this older man offered to help. He drives me 20 or so minutes to a junkyard to get a cheap tire. Then he puts the tires on the rim with no more than a pry bar and some soapy water. Had a compressor on his truck, so he aired it up, and I put it on. And we went on our way. AWW, we need more people like that guy in the world. The lady who told me I looked great in blue, and that it was clearly my color. To this day, if I'm deciding between shirts to buy or wear, I'll go with blue. That compliment was about 15 years ago at least. Reminds me of how I won't cut my hair beyond a certain length because I was once told by my friend's mum that I look really fantastic and like Iggy Pop or something. Someone told me I look like Jerry Garcia. I don't know if it's a compliment or not, but holy shit, they were right. I looked like a Muslim Jerry Garcia. I was drunk on my front porch one night. Me and a couple of friends were shooting the shit. I lived in a rough neighborhood at the time. Lot of homeless people, but most of them were decent people just down on their luck. Anyway, I see a homeless guy walking by my house and I holler out to him, "Yo man, you want a beer?" And he's like, "Man, heck yeah. Thank you." So he comes up into the yard. I give him a beer and an extra one for the road. He starts going on about how he misses his son and how he never gets to see him anymore. We all sit and listen to him. He starts crying and says he bought his kid a bag of brand new Hanes socks and his mom wouldn't let him have them. Now I don't know what he did to deserve such treatment. Maybe he's a total son of a bitch and deserves to be where he is. Maybe not. I have no idea, but what I do know is, whatever his past, he was having a very human moment at the time, and he was super thankful, not just for the beer, but that me and my friends were listening and talking with him, just letting him vent. Then he tries to give me the pack of socks he bought for his kid, which I vehemently refused. I was like, "Man, you keep them. Your feet might get cold out there." But he wasn't hearing it. I mean, he refused to keep them. He flat out insisted that I take them. Eventually it became obvious he wasn't gonna take no for an answer and he wore me down, and I accepted them. I guess he didn't need the reminder. He moved on and the party vibe was completely gone. We all just went inside and crashed. About a year ago I fell off the wagon and was back to drinking heavily every night. In about July, some random dude from the apartment complex said he was homeless, but crashing on his buddy's couch for the weekend was walking by. I offered him some beer and smokes to keep me company since it was late night outside and I was spooked. He told me about his current life issues and how alone and unsupported he felt. We talked for hours. In November I happened upon him again, but he's dressed much nicer and has a bounce in his step. He explains that talking to me That night really helped him get his ass into gear. He gave my drunk ass that look. Said if I can do it, you can. You're never alone. I'm nearly 2 months sober again with zero interest in picking up a bottle. I've officially started therapy and have clear but manageable goals laid out to help me move forward. If he can do it, I can. Edit. Thank you all for the awards. The show of love and support has me in tears. Thank you all for just being you. Never forget that you're not alone. Don't forget to take the time to care for yourself. Let yourself cry. Celebrate the little wins. There's always a silver lining, no matter how small. So notice it. If Nick can do it, we can too. When I was super overweight, I was just starting to work out somewhat regularly. Being morbidly obese at the gym is terrible. I have never felt more eyes on me before in my life. I was on a tread mother-in-law, grinding out some inclined walk like jogging, and a super fit girl got on the machine next to me. This was all pre-covered. She did a short warm-up, and before she got off the tread, mother-in-law, she turned to me and gave me a high five and told me to keep it up. It was so encouraging to have that support when I was used to getting stared at by everyone else in the gym. Her small, kind gesture went a long way. There are a few. The biggest one was when I was homeless and asked a lady for the time. She told me and asked if I wanted to share her sandwich and the paper. She was the first person to treat me like a person, like I was worth something in years. I never got her name, but I will remember her fondly for the rest of my life. I know that she'll never, ever know what a difference she made in my life. Just that one simple thing she did, and the humanity she showed me changed my life. I got sober just a few days later and completely turned my life around. One person, one mother-in-law, one kindness that you may never think of again in your life can change someone else's life beyond measure. Few years ago, I was stopping at a red light and there was an old man selling candy. He approached my car and I was ready to tell him I didn't want anything, but he motioned me to roll my window down, gave me a lollipop and some gum, and said to the beautiful young lady, "Never forget you're a star," and walked away before I could say anything. Needless to say, he brightened my day. Now, whenever I'm sad, I think about that man telling me I'm a star. Never fails to cheer me up. My lost wallet was returned in the mail. The anonymous stranger sent it back at their own expense. 9.75 postage with all the money, credit cards, driver's license, and other items intact. Nothing was missing. A note enclosed read, "Please do something kind for a stranger whenever you have the opportunity." Took a train to New York City by myself for the first time. I was 18. Second time to New York City. First time ever on a train. I told the kiosk lady that I'd never been on a train before and asked if she might give me a quick rundown of what to do. Another train station employee was nearby and was so interested and amused that I was taking a train for the first time and was alone. He walked me through what to do, down to the smallest detail. No judgment, no meanness. He was just a guy with a silly disposition, delighting in a young person's naivety, breaking up the doldrums of his week. I aspire to be that way when people ask me for help. Thanks, Frank P. You were a peach.